Hello everybody, this is Omar Hakim, and I'm talking to you now from drumspeech.com. All right. So, I have on this paper some questions from drummers all over Russia. This is my first time to come to Russia, and I'm very excited to be here with my jazz trio, the Trio of Oz, featuring Rachel Z on piano, and our substitute bassist for this tour is a guy named John Toscano. And we're very excited to be in Russia and to be in Moscow at the Igor Butman Jazz Club. Fantastic. So, the first question is, you have a phenomenal groove feeling. Is it a talent you were born with, or are there some exercises or routines you've developed over the years of practice? Well, many people ask about the groove all the time. And I have to honestly say that for me, the groove is not something that you can really practice on your own. Yes, you can play rhythms, and you can practice certain rhythms, but the essence of the groove is to really connect with other musicians that you're actually creating this feeling with. So of course, yes, you can practice the grooves and the beats, but the idea of the feeling of the groove comes from your connection with your colleagues and your friends when you play together. And this is a very difficult thing for me to describe. I had a teacher once tell me that some things can't be taught, they have to be caught. And this feeling of the groove is the same. It is really all about connecting your heart with the hearts of the other musicians on stage, and to also be in the musical moment, which means listening to each other very carefully and connecting with each other so that the music starts to dance, it starts to move, and it starts to kind of have a motion that feels good. I hope that helps. Next question. What drum methodic or book do you find more useful for you? Well, honestly, I haven't used drum books and these sort of things in many, many years. When I was a young boy in high school, I was working from a book called Syncopation. I want to say the author's Ted Reed. There was another one called Stick Control, but these are books that I haven't referred to in many years because I've been very busy, and for me, the practice has actually been the playing on stage. You know, for me, the best practice is just connecting with other musicians. You know, what I've always told everyone about technique and technical things is it's super important to learn all of the rudiments, study all of these things that make it easier for you to play. You want to develop your chops, you want to develop your muscles and your reflex, but all of this practice is to enable you to communicate musically in a clear way with your other musicians on stage and to the audience. So while you're studying these things, think of it as learning a language. When you learn a language, you learn the rules of the language, you learn the techniques of the language, you study hard, you read other books. In this case, you listen to lots of music, records, different styles. But then, when it comes time to play, to communicate with the audience, you think of it as a conversation. When you're conversing with your friends, you're not always using big words to speak with your friends. In music, you're not always necessarily having to play a lot of technical things to show everyone that you know big words and everything. For me, the idea is to communicate clearly and connect emotionally through the language of music with the audience. So I hope that gives you something to work with there. Let's see, another question. Do you still practice, and how much time did you take at your most intense period? I don't practice as much as I would like to practice right now, but like I said before, a lot of my practice is when I'm working on stage. But there was a time when I was practicing 4 to 6 hours a day. And I really enjoyed my practice, I would say between age like 11 and 14, I would stay in the house all day, practice, practice, practice. But I've been a professional drummer since I was 10 years old. And I've been a touring drummer since I was 15 years old. So when I started touring at 15, that's kind of when my practice time got cut, really, because I was traveling and always on the road. But before then, it was easily 4 to 6 hours a day of practicing. As a demanded session drummer, what tips do you use to memorize new drum parts? Okay, that's a good question. Most of the time in the studio, I'm learning music right there on the spot. So one of the first things that I do when I get to the studio is I listen to the demo of the artist if they've recorded a demo. And what that does for me is that it gives me an idea of the mood or the original intention that they had for the song. And then from there, I formulate a rhythm and a groove that I think best fits the feeling and the mood of the record. And typically, if it's a difficult chart, then I end up referring to the chart for the form of the song. But usually on the pop sessions, R&B sessions, these songs typically have a pretty set form. So it's, you know, once you're in the intro, you understand the verse is coming, a B section is coming, and then the chorus. So I might make a quick chart for myself that outlines the song form. And then after playing the song a couple of times, typically I retain the form mentally, and then we get into actually making it feel good at that point. Please tell us about your work with Daft Punk. Was it your first experience of working with electronic musicians, and what influenced you during the recording session? Well, the Daft Punk session was very interesting because it was a surprise call in many ways. I was familiar with the band, I was familiar with their work, and so I was surprised that they wanted to work with me. So one of the things that I thought was maybe they wanted me to play Roland V drums on the session, just to kind of enhance and add to their electronic concept. But it turned out that they wanted me to play acoustic drums. I said, wow, it's a very interesting call. Daft Punk wants acoustic drums on their record. So I arrived at the studio, and the session was more of a live sampling session. In other words, Thomas Bangalter showed me different riff ideas that he had, and he would play them on the keyboard, and he said, find something, some groove, some rhythm that fits with this idea. And so, you know, once he would give us these parts, then we would just jam together. And a lot of the jams turned into 5 to 8 minute jams, where we would just take one groove idea and loop it over and over again. And we did this for about a week. And after that week of recording, they had a lot of material that they could use to create Random Access Memories album. So this idea of creating live loops rather than using pre-existing loops gives them an edge in terms of their sound and the originality of what they're doing. This session was a lot of fun. It was not my first time working with electronic musicians. I've worked with a lot of people in this way, but typically I was either programming or I was using V-drums for it. This was the first time I actually worked with electronic musicians where they wanted me to play acoustic drums. So it was a fantastic experience for me and a very successful album that I was really happy to be a part of. And there's one more question. What is the best way to gain a successful career in the music business? Now, this is a very difficult question to answer, because if you ask 10 different musicians this question, you will get 10 very different stories about how they made it in the music business. But I think there's one thing that they all have in common. One, or maybe several things they have in common. They all practice very hard and work very hard on their instrument. Two, they all had deep belief and faith in themselves. And three, they really, 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 really loved music. And when you have that kind of love for what you're doing, I think your attitude is that you will always do it no matter what. That is the primary focus of your life. And in the same way that a bird has wings and it will jump and fly, musicians who make it in the music business get to a place where they realize they have to just spread their wings and they have to jump, and they have to jump on the wings of love and faith and belief that they're going to be out there for the music, and that the universe will provide for them just like God provides for everything in nature. So thank you for letting me spend time with you and talk to you, everybody, at this fantastic website. Okay? Thank you. Bye.